Antarctica, a continent covered in mostly snow and ice.
It is a vast landscape with very little life.
But in the icy waters of Antarctica, it's a different story. Here in Palmer Deep, Antarctica, a species of deep-sea crab, known as the king crab, has begun to disrupt the aquatic ecosystem.
Jose the science guy. Jose the science guy. Ho 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 ho. Jose the science guy.
Science rules.
Jose the science guy.
Ho ho ho
Ho, the science guy.
Ho 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 ho. Jose the science guy.
Hi, I'm Jose the Science Guy, and I'm doing some research here. Can you define an invasive species and the difference between an introduced species?
Gladly. An invasive species is a plant or animal that isn't native to a specific location. An example in an aquatic ecosystem would be the king crab. An introduced species is a plant or animal that is outside its normal population range due to humans, either by accident or on purpose.
What are you guys talking about?
We were just discussing the king crab invasion in Palmer Deep, Antarctica. Can you explain a little about Palmer Deep? Where is it? Oh, and who are you?
I'm Jude, a scientist working at Palmer Station in Antarctica. Palmer Deep is a mud-floored basin off the west coast of the West Antarctic Peninsula to the south of South America. Its depth reaches to approximately 1,440 meters, or 4,724 feet at its deepest point. The deep is filled with many indigenous species, such as the sea pig, sea lily, basket star, and other invertebrates.
Due to the cold temperatures, no new species were introduced for a long period of time, and because many predators were slow invertebrates, natural selection relaxed and many organisms lost their natural armor.
This area may seem quite nice at first thought, but it is experiencing rapid warming. The king crabs have begun to invade this area as well, further causing problems.
That sounds like a real problem. Maybe we should teleport by green screen so we can get a better idea of the situation.
That sounds like a great idea. Cool. No pun intended.
What exactly has caused this species of crab to move into these new waters?
We'll get there in a moment. We need to address a few other issues first.
Alright then, how do you explain the decrease in indigenous populations of organisms, such as the sea pig, seafloor creatures like worms, and the other invertebrates?
Well, Jose, the answer is simple. Describe a sea pig if you'd be so kind.
Sea pigs are a type of sea cucumber, which are
Echinoderms.
include sea urchins and starfish. They are deposit or detrital eaters that extract organic particles from deep sea mud. They are about 3 inches long and made of soft tissue with no protection.
You just answered your own question. They are made of unprotected, soft tissue, easy prey for the king crab, just like many of the other organisms.
Alright, so how is this affecting the region's trophic pyramid?
Let me show you where the sea pigs and other creatures are on the pyramid, as well as where the crab is disrupting it. As you can see here, the natural system is being disrupted by the introduction of the king crab.
I see. This is affecting the food web too, I'd assume. Do you guys happen to have a food web of the ecosystem on hand?
We do. Here you go.
As you can see, the king crab is invading here, and it preys on many organisms.
I heard that it also disrupts the natural habitat as well. How is this?
Well, Jose, as you know, the king crab eats many organisms, but some of them, such as worms, live inside the sediment on the ocean floor. This means that a crab, when hungry, may dig up this sediment, thus disrupting the natural habitat.
Okay, so now that we've talked about all these parts of the ecosystem and other background information, we can explain how humans have played a role into this invasion.
To put it plainly, climate change is the cause of this. Because of increased carbon emissions due to the burning of fossil fuels, the Earth has begun to, in many places, including Palmer Deep, get warmer. This is mainly because of humans. See, carbon is always circulating in the atmosphere. It's supposed to be there. Burning fossil fuels generates carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas. The problem is that we're putting too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This is absorbing more heat than we need, causing the Earth to heat up. As the atmosphere heats up, so do the oceans.
So how do you know all this stuff?
I gave myself most of the long lines.
Okay. Anyways, because of the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the ocean is heating up and allowing the crabs to move into Palmer Deep. Right?
Exactly. Waters in Palmer Deep that once were colder due to their lower elevation have begun to get warmer, allowing king crabs to migrate from the higher elevation to Palmer Deep.
So, how are we controlling this increasing problem?
Most obviously, we need to reduce the amount of fossil fuels we're putting into the atmosphere, which would result in a colder environment.
How would a colder environment affect the king crab?
It would be too cold for the king crab to survive. If the temperature was lowered below 34.5 degrees Fahrenheit, almost none of the crabs could survive, and would probably return to warmer waters.
What about controlling the crabs by removing them from the environment? Could we possibly use an introduced species or something like that to wipe them out? Doesn't seem that hard to do.
Well, there are a few problems with doing that. Firstly, it would probably be very costly and time-consuming. Also, it may damage the environment more than the crabs are doing already. A third reason would be that the king crab does not have many or perhaps any predators which could survive at the current temperature of Palmer Deep.
I agree with Max on this subject. It would most likely be more detrimental to the environment if we were to do anything besides lowering the temperature. But that won't be easy. It's going to take a long time to fix this problem we've created.
Is there another way? I'm sure we could do something.
Well, like I said, anything that we do besides lowering the temperature might further disrupt the environment. But for now, all we can do is hope that this doesn't get too out of hand for us. I think it's time we return to the lab so we can recap.
Let's teleport by green screen, again.
That sounds like a good idea. Ready?
So, what did we learn about?
Well, we found out that the king crab was invading Palmer Deep and injuring or killing all the indigenous species and environment.
Both the trophic pyramid and food web have been disrupted by the king crab.
Also, we must reduce our use of fossil fuel usage because it is heating up waters of Palmer Deep.
The king crab can be removed from the ecosystem in multiple ways, but only one or two of them are feasible for the environment.
The best method to choose would be lowering the temperature through decreased fossil fuel usage.
Cool, I think we learned a lot today. We'll see you next time on Jose the Science Guy.
Jose the Science Guy.